And honestly, that whole interaction and everything that went down is so freaking different than how I would have handled that in the past. I would have completely just put everything of mine to the side and tended to him and tried to make him happy, less uncomfortable, and hopefully ease whatever feelings he was feeling. Hey babes, welcome to Codependency Alchemy, the podcast. I am your host, Alyssa, and today I've got a really real share for you all. This will be super supportive, I hope, for those of you who listen to the podcast episode, regulating your nervous system when you're fighting with your partner, because I could have very easily been in a fight with my partner this morning. Justin was in rare form, and I want to share with you the importance of doing this healing work and what gets to happen, what things get to look like, how things get to change when you really implement that sacred pause, when you implement and enforce your own boundaries. I am holding what happened this morning as a testament and as evidence of what gets to happen when we begin to take radical personal responsibility for ourselves, and how that shifts and how that changes what happens during quote unquote fights or conflicts with our partners. This morning, before setting up to record, Justin and I had this I'm going to call it an interaction, because it certainly could have been a fight. It certainly could have been an argument. And it's truly because what I know now about my insecure attachment and the work I've done to cultivate and earn secure attachment is why I truly feel that it didn't get into an argument. It didn't get into a fight this morning. I don't think that I could have navigated that. I almost know I wouldn't have been able to navigate that in the same way had it been 5 years ago, 10 years ago when we first got together. So on my podcast recording days, it's usually a Sunday. It's usually when Justin goes to the rock gym. I'm here with Frank. There's no one in the house, and it's just it's the easiest, most simple time because Justin works from home during the week. So I've kind of gotten on this schedule, and he's gone on the schedule of Sunday mornings. I record episodes, as many as I can, while he's out of the house. Now this morning, there's a few things that happened. One, I think he woke up at 4:30. I think he woke up pretty early for whatever reason. So that tells me it's possible he didn't sleep well last night. The second thing I noticed is that he was using a lot of name calling towards himself. We're doing this family challenge where we're exercising and losing weight, and I don't think he saw the number he wanted to see on the scale, and so he kind of got a little spirally with it and was just saying a lot of things that, I definitely don't want him to say about himself, but that's where he was at. And so I approached it in a much different way than I would have. I have learned that I lean mostly towards anxious attachment, and sometimes in the fearful avoidant attachment as well. So that means that in these scenarios, when I see my partner is uncomfortable, I go into thinking that I need to fix it, that it is my problem, that this is somehow my responsibility to fix. I don't feel safe when my partner seems unhinged, right? You being unhinged means that I need to come in and make this less scary for me. Your discomfort is causing me discomfort. And this is also why codependency, I think, is so interrelated to insecure attachment styles, because specifically anxious attachment, because we think that anything quote unquote wrong or anything bad or anything uncomfortable happening outside of us is because of us, right? I am responsible. I did this. This is somehow my problem that I need to fix, when really it's not. So I'm noticing these things that Justin is experiencing, and I'm trying to just be an observer this morning. I was also trying to stay calm and grounded because if I've learned anything from working with kids, you cannot regulate a dysregulated child if you are dysregulated. And before, when these types of situations would come up, if Justin was experiencing discomfort, if he was having one of these moments, I immediately became dysregulated and went in to try to fix. And that energy of dysregulation to dysregulation is usually where the biggest fights, the conflicts, the arguing in circles, the yelling at each other, you don't even really know what the fuck you're fighting about. Like that's what happens when we go in with that type of energy. So I'm trying to be very conscientious. Is what he's saying triggering me? Is how he's acting triggering me? Yes, I am human. I still have triggers, but I was really trying to be cognizant to remind myself in those moments, like, this is not about me. This is him. I get to hold space for him while he's spiraling and not make it mean anything about me or make it mean anything about our relationship, because that's really what comes to mind for me, is that I feel like if I don't fix this, somehow our relationship is going to suffer. And then I go in guns blazing trying to like fix every little thing, which I did for years. And I'm telling you right now, that shit doesn't fucking work. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. It's never worked for me. It's never gotten better. If anything, it's caused more resentment, whether that resentment was coming from me or whether that resentment was coming from Justin. So this morning, I'm giving him space. I tell him I hear him. I even ask him, what is it that you need? And he wasn't really hearing it. He was just kind of like, I don't even remember what he said, but it was the dramatics. It was dramatics. And so I know that's just him moving through his own discomfort of the number that he saw on the scale, maybe the lack of sleep. Third thing he mentioned was how sore he was and how he didn't want to go to the rock gym. And so there's also probably some discomfort around, okay, I'm going to the rock gym because he has plans with someone. He has to pick someone from the airport, all of these things. And so he's just resisting in a very, very big way. And he was like, I'm not going to the rock gym. And I was like, okay, obviously I need him to go to the rock gym so that I can record these episodes. This is my work. This is a work day for me. Sundays are work days for me. It's not a work day for him. So I get how this can be not ideal, especially since he's experiencing a lot of discomfort. Maybe he just wants to stay home. He wants to cancel all the plans. I get it. So I say, I hear that you don't want to go to the rock gym and I need to record podcast episodes today. So let me know what it is that you need. And he's like, well, you're not recording today. I'm staying home. Like, that's it. And I was like, okay, I hear what you need and we're going to have to talk about this, and let me know when you're ready. And I just left the room because in that moment, like, I need to now regulate myself because I have a plan, and not being able to do this plan is going to mean I'm going to have to pivot a lot, and his need is basically overriding my need and my need is overriding his need. And so we just need to take a moment, right? And I wasn't like, you need to think about what you said, or like, no, I need to record today. You know, today is an important day for me. Today is a work day. That's what I would have said 5 years ago. That is definitely what I would have said 10 years ago. I would have come in like really hot and made him wrong, made him to blame, made him feel bad for what he said, and guilt him into doing what it is that I want through just covertly manipulating the situation, through shaming and guilting him. That's what I would have done. And I am so fucking proud of myself that I didn't do that, that it didn't even occur to me to do that. Like, I really was just, okay, here's where he's at. Here's where I'm at. Maybe I only record one episode while he goes and picks up our friend from the airport. And like, can I just compromise in that way? Because I know what it feels like to be spiraling. I know what it feels like to be, having a lot of intrusive thoughts, to just feel like I need comfort of being home. So I gave him some space. I went and sat down in our dining room. My house is very small, you guys. My dining room is literally right there. I can look at it. So I sat down. I started just writing a little bit, and he came in and made breakfast. And as he was eating, I asked for his consent. Are you ready to talk about our plans for today? And he goes, yes, I'm ready. I'm sorry for the mean things that I said. I'm sorry I told you that you couldn't record episodes today. Sorry for my outburst. Not was what I was expecting at all. I don't, and this is the gift, I think, of just holding yourself and just staying focused on your internal landscape, staying focused on what your nervous system is doing and tending to the triggers and activations. I didn't have an expectation on how this conversation was going to go. I wasn't sitting there thinking about what I wanted him to say or how I wanted him to respond. So I get to be like really surprised, when he responds in that way, because I don't have this expectation of him needing to apologize or anything like that. Because I think oftentimes what would happen before is I would have this expectation of him apologizing or him handling it a certain way. And then when he did it, because I had built it up in my head already, it was like, but it's not sincere. But it's not genuine. Like I would go into like making it wrong even still. Whereas when I don't have an expectation, when my only intention is to have a conversation, to come up with a solution together as a team, then anything that comes up from that conversation is just a surprise. And I'm present to it. I don't have it all dreamed up in my head of what it's supposed to look or sound like. And so he meets me with that, with just immediately apologizing for what he had said and how he was acting. I think he called it an outburst, which, I mean, I could see it kind of was. It was pretty interesting. And he is not usually an outburst type person. So I definitely knew that there was just something deeper going on, and this just wasn't about me. It wasn't personal, even though some of the decisions made from it might have then included me, right? So I say thank you. I was like, thanks, thanks for apologizing. I see you. I know it can be frustrating when like you want to see a certain number on the scale and you don't see it. So I'm just like validating his experience and some of the things that he was sharing about himself. He went a little bit deeper about why he was frustrated. And then I had brought up what he had said about me not recording podcasts and him and him bringing our friend home. He was literally like, I'm going to bring him here and we're going to bug you and be in your face for 2 hours. Like that was his out. I was just like, okay, I don't know what's happening here, but this is not me. This is not about me. So I said, when you go pick up our friend from the airport, I would like to get ready and record podcast episodes. What is your plan? And he was like, yes, get ready, record podcast episodes. So I was like, thanks. I really appreciate that. And honestly, that whole interaction and everything that went down is so freaking different than how I would have handled that in the past. Like I know I was giving some examples. I would have gone in and tried to fix it. I would have immediately overridden myself. I would have been like, fine, I'll go pick up our friend from the airport. I'll go do this. Like, I won't record podcast episodes. I would have completely just put everything of mine to the side and tended to him and tried to make him happy, less uncomfortable, and hopefully ease whatever feelings he was feeling. Instead, what I got to do today was meet him and what he was experiencing. Not take it personally, not try to fix it. I trusted his resilience to move through his experience because I was able to not judge what he was experiencing, not try to make it wrong or try to fix it. Because I was able to hold sacred space for him, we were able to have a conversation with both of our consent to figuring out a solution that worked for everyone. And It was a beautiful reminder that when I don't go into fix, when I don't go into change, when I don't go into judging his experience and making his discomfort equal mine, it actually brings more connection. I got to actually witness him in the thick of it, hold loving, compassionate space for him, right? My actions of going in and trying to fix and change is only telling that person what you're feeling isn't okay, and I need to change. We need to fix it. We need to change it. We need to shift it. It's saying what you're feeling isn't okay. What you're feeling isn't allowed. What you're feeling is making me uncomfortable. So change, be different. And that's why so many of us feel unseen. That's why so many of us feel not heard, because emotions and feelings and experiences are constantly overridden. Because when we're experiencing the depth of our emotions, a lot of times we are told to shh, or it's okay, it'll be okay, get over it. Here, have this piece of cake. Fine, let me do it. I'll take care of it, right? Instead of saying, this is a deep emotion. You're experiencing discomfort. I'm here with you in it. I'm here with you in it without judgment, asking what they need. How can I support you right now? Even just asking that question alone gets to shift something in them, in our relationship, because we get to pause and hear, oh, we're not alone in this. If I should need help, if I should need support, here is this person saying they're here to hold my hand through it. But oftentimes with codependency, we go right into fixing it because we think it means something about us if we don't. We think that it will mean that this person will leave us, abandon us, reject us, push us away. We think it will mean that we're a bad wife, a bad partner, a bad mom if we don't go in and make our children or our partner or family happy. If you're not happy, then it's a reflection of me. And that burden is so fucking heavy. So what we get to do in these situations, in these experiences where our partner is experiencing discomfort, is we get to hold compassionate, loving space for them while still making sure that we are tending to ourselves. So remember what I did when Justin started lashing out and he was like, we're going to annoy you for 2 hours. We're going to come back here and just annoy you. And instead of being like, that's really rude. That's not what I deserve. You're being mean. No, you're not. I'm going to record episodes. That's what I'm doing today. I'm locking the door. I could have gone into all of those, but instead I was just, I hear what you're saying and we're going to need to talk about this. I don't even think I said anything else. I hear what you're saying and we're going to need to talk about this. And I think I left the room. Not mean, and I didn't say it in a mean tone. I was just like, I hear you and we're going to need to talk about that. And like I said, came out and sat at my dining room table and started writing. This lets that person know, this lets our partner know that we're not going to participate in arguing, right? We're not going to participate in the dramatics of this situation. I'm not going to go in and defend myself. There's nothing to defend, right? We're a team. We're partners. We're going to figure this out together. I'm coming with that energy, but I'm also not letting him talk to me that way, right? I'm enforcing a boundary. When Justin came in with that type of energy, I have a boundary of what I am willing to participate in when it comes to conflicts or uncomfortable emotions in the relationship. I'm not going to let someone be mean to me. I am not going to let someone talk down to me. I'm not going to let someone berate me, right? It is not his responsibility to hold that boundary. It's my responsibility, which is why I removed myself from the room. And again, we have a small fucking house. It's maybe 20 steps from our room that I left him in to the dining room, right? It's not like I did go to the other side of the house, but it's a small house. You don't need to leave the house. You absolutely could. And I have before in the past where it's like, I'm going to go for a walk. And when I get back, we can talk about this. It is my responsibility to enforce the boundary. It is my responsibility to make sure that I am in conversations with people who are going to respect me. And if you're not in a place to respect me, I can see your inability to meet my boundary right now and not make it mean anything about you, not make it mean you're disrespectful, not make it mean that you don't love me, not make it mean that you're a mean person or a bad person, but just where you're at currently isn't able to meet my boundary for respect. And so I am going to make sure that that boundary for respect is met by removing myself from the conversation. And as you can see, what happened when he came out of our room and into the space, it was a completely different experience. He started taking ownership. He started taking responsibility. Had I not done that, had I not enforced the boundary, had I begun to project the same discomfort I was now feeling onto him, we would have had a very, very different situation on our hands. His projections would have landed on me. I would have armored up, grabbed my sword and armor, and I would have started throwing my own projections onto him. He would have armored up, thrown at me. I would have armored up, thrown at him. And now we have a conflict where we're arguing in circles and no one fucking wins. No one wins. That's why I made a whole podcast episode on the sacred pause when you're in a conflict with your partner. If you haven't listened to that podcast episode, it is a gem. It is so, so fucking good. I will link it in the show notes or description box below. And that's exactly what I gave myself. I gave myself that sacred pause. I removed myself. I let him know this is something that we are going to need to talk about because it involves the day that we are in. It's not tomorrow. It's not next week. It's like literally this morning, what we're going to do. So this will need to be discussed like now, like in a few minutes. And that sacred pause allowed me to resource myself, allowed him to resource himself. And 10 years ago, I would have just focused on what he was doing. How is he resourcing himself? How is he holding himself? Is he doing what he needs to do in order to come into this conversation or this conflict, in a constructive way? That is where my mind went. I went immediately into him and what he was doing or how he was handling it or navigating it. But now I trust he's figuring it out in his own way. It 100% likely looks very different than how I navigate it, right? I came out and started writing. Guaranteed he did not write in the bedroom. I don't know what he did. But whatever he did works for him. And I don't need to know what that is. I don't need to know what that is because that's his house and he's tending to his house. And I spent the first 4 years of our relationship tending to his house. How he tends to his house has to look exactly like how I tend to mine. That is the state of mind that I used to be in. How he heals has to look exactly like how I heal. We're coming up on almost 10 years of us being together, almost exactly. And, yes, there was a little stint in there for 7 months, which if you haven't voted on the poll for part 2, the breakup on the podcast episode, No Spark, definitely go do that. I'm letting you guys decide if you want to hear about the whole breakup situation. It's probably more than I can even fit into one episode, but you guys let me know. If you want to hear the breakup story, answer the poll if you listen on Spotify, or if you're watching this on YouTube, let me know in the comments. So coming up on this 10 years that we've spent together, we were reflecting yesterday on the car of just the evolution and growth of our relationship. And I think this is one of the things that we get to be really proud of ourselves for, how we're navigating, how I can really release the need of him and his healing journey needing to look a certain way and truly allowing him to be his own person. Because that's really what I saw happen in the first half of our relationship before we broke up, was just this dimming of the light within him, like the true loss of his independence and who he was as a person, because I was constantly placing all of these expectations on the type of person I wanted him to be, or I thought I needed him to be, when really I didn't need him to be any certain way. I thought I did. I thought I needed him to look and be and feel and seem a certain way in order for me to feel safe. But ultimately, what happened was I was just overriding me taking responsibility for creating that safety for myself. I was making my partner responsible for that. And that burden I placed on him again and again and again over years only caused us to feel further apart when our friendship ran so deep and when the love that we have for one another ran so deep. It was just so interesting to see how the expectations that we place on our partners can really be a detriment to our relationships with them. And so I hope this episode and this share of what we are experiencing this morning shows the importance of the sacred pause in action when there is conflict. I hope it shows how when we focus our attention inward, when we bring our attention on ourselves, on our nervous systems, and how to tend to them, rather than fixating or focusing on what they need to do in order to bring more comfort to you, when you are responsible for your comfort for self and you let them be responsible for their comfort for themselves, the magic that gets to happen, the connection that gets to happen, the depth that gets to come forth from holding that sacred space, not making anyone's discomfort somebody else's responsibility. Because I was able to hold myself and not going into fixing him, he was able to share even more of his fears of what he was experiencing that I wouldn't have known if I just went right into, never mind, don't worry about it, I'll pick up our friend, I won't record today. None of that would have happened if I just went in right away. I wouldn't have known what he was really upset about. I wouldn't have known the thoughts that were really going on in his head. I wouldn't have known the depth of his emotions had I just been like, forget it, never mind, I'll go do all the things, I'll record later, which is what I would have done. And that's what kept us from growing together. That's what kept us from evolving, because I never let him have the space to be vulnerable, to share his true experience, to let me know what his fears were. I would love to know your thoughts on this episode. These are my absolute favorite podcast episodes to record when I'm sharing very real, like only hours ago experiences with you guys, because it just shows, it really shows how this is something that is ongoing. This is something that is ever changing. This is something that we're still continuously experiencing. And it's not this like, oh, we live in this perfect little bubble where nothing touches us and everything's happy and things are shiny, glittery, rainbow sparkles everywhere. It is that sometimes. And it's also the shit, because we are human. But that shit part too, like, is so profound and so potent. Like, I'm so grateful I got to have that experience with him this morning. Even though he had his little outbursts, they led to a lot of depth in our relationship. I got to see him in a deeper way, so I'm grateful for it too, you know? And I truly attest my ability to hold this sacred space to the masterclass we did in Codependency Alchemy, the membership for paid subscribers on Substack. We came together virtually and I led a masterclass on how to offer support without saviorism, how to effectively support other people without it being rooted in codependency, which I know I'm kind of giving you a real life example of that here on the podcast today. But that masterclass was just so potent, and it's just such a helpful reminder for me too of how that looks, how that sounds, how that feels. And right now on Substack, we are voting for this month's masterclass. If you don't know what the Codependency Alchemy membership is, it is our membership on Substack where we meet virtually a couple times a month. And I'm excited to start rolling out AMA chats, which are Ask Me Anything chats, for paid subscribers as well, where you can kind of come in the chat and ask me your questions. I get DMs from you guys every day and I fucking love them, but there's just not enough time in my day to answer all of them. If you have a specific question that you're wanting my feedback, guidance, or support on, the Codependency Alchemy membership for paid subscribers on Substack is the best way to receive one-on-one support and guidance from me. And it is only $9 a month, people. $9 a month. $9 a month to meet with me on Zoom for a masterclass where we unravel a codependency pattern so you can walk away with tools. And we meet for our virtual meetup every month as well, where it's much more hot seat one-on-one coaching. For anyone who is wanting support, I will lead them through shadow work, inner child healing, or navigating a specific situation. There's private podcast episodes, there's the AMA chats, and I am just so thrilled and fucking grateful for this community that we are cultivating together, because this is how we heal codependency. This is how we heal the mother wound. Coming together, being witnessed, sharing our experiences, learning, and that's ultimately why I created Codependency Alchemy. I wanted and needed a space to continue to keep these teachings at the forefront of my mind. It is so easy for people who experience trauma in their childhood to go back and revert back to old patterns and old ways. And I did that for years. I would go through this growth and this evolution, and then I would just fall back into old patterns and old ways. And I want to normalize that happens. That falling back happens. It still happens to me, but I feel like I move through it so much quicker because I'm kind of caught, right? When I fall back, I'm caught in this community of Codependency Alchemy where they hold me, where I remember my power, where I remember my sovereignty, when I remember my authentic expression of self, when I remember that there's these other ways to relate to people that is actually more connecting than the old ways that I might be trying to revert back to. So if you felt like this podcast has been supportive and you want to take it a little bit deeper, you want a little bit more one-on-one support, you want to be in rooms with women who are also healing codependency in their lives and in their relationships, I would definitely consider becoming a paid subscriber on Substack. I will make sure to leave a link to that below. And for anyone who's listening to this episode, I will actually leave a special discount for you guys. If you join by clicking the link in this episode, I will give you 20% off the membership for a year. So definitely worth checking it out. Grab that discount, grab that membership, come join the room, come be in the conversations, come receive support. We are absolutely capable of doing this alone, but the point is that we don't have to. And if this episode was supportive for you, please make sure to like it, share it. If you haven't rated or reviewed the podcast, that is so helpful for me as a creator to get this episode in front of people who maybe don't follow me on social media. So if you have the time and it feels aligned to leave a rating or review, I would be really grateful and honored to receive that. And if you're watching this on YouTube, make sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Thank you so much. I love you so much, and I will see you next week. Bye.